Hi, I want to walk you through our Level 3 service called Rankings and Trade Setups and the new enhancement to that service called Trade Selections. This is an amazingly in-depth service where we share our analysis and our trading ideas. We actually do extensive analysis on 81 symbols. That's very in-depth symbols of stocks, ETFs, and indexes and futures. You'll never need to go outside of these 81 symbols if you want to be a very active trader. And we also include those stocks that are the best optionable stocks. So there is an incredible amount of trading that you can do just in these 81 symbols. What we do is we analyze them on multiple time frames. That means that there's analysis there for investors, swing traders, option traders, even short-term traders. I'm going to take you to the Ask Slim site and walk you through and explain how this all works and how it's so easily used and how there is very easy navigation throughout the service. So here is the Ask Slim front page right here. So you are probably very familiar with our site, and then you know that this is the front page of our site. And if I scroll down a little bit in there, you will see our player there, which has our weekly show, Market Week. All you have to do is click on the player, and you'll see it start up, and you see the Market Week show. We also have on the front an introduction to our workshop, the 5 essential building blocks to successful trading, and some information on Slim charts. So there's a lot of things right there on the front page. So where I want to take you now is to our dashboard. So you can see up in the top there's a lot of different navigation, and there's the dashboard right there, which our members have access to. When I click on dashboard, it's going to take you into the dashboard, and you will see a lot of different tiles, as we call them. So what we have, the first tile right over here is the Ask Slim Market Week, which is our level 1. Everybody who's a level 1 member get access to our archive in the Ask Slim Market Week, and there's new things coming in there. Level 2 members get all of our videos that you can see right in here, come all the way across here, and to strategy, style, strategy, and plan. So there is 9 categories of videos that level 2 gets, and of course our level 3 rankings and trade setups members and trade selections get all of that information. So what I want to do is click on rankings and trade setups and go into what is our table. So there is rankings and trade setups with the information that helps you understand what this particular service is. And now I'm going to come down to our table right over there, and this is, you can see in here that we have our whole list of stocks. If I keep scrolling down, you'll see there's actually 2 pages in here. So if you go to page 2, you go right there, and you can see the rest of the stocks and all of the indexes and futures that we cover. So I'm going to go back to page 1 and let you see the stocks. So what we have here is analysis in 3 different time frames, plus what we call our option bias. So let's take, for example, the long-term analysis that you can see right in here. This is essentially monthly analysis. And when it's green, it's in a positive mode, as you can see here for Apple. When it's red, as you can see here for Bristol Myers, it's in a negative mode. So what that is a momentum indicator, and suggests to you whether there is an underlying primary trend that's positive or negative. The second one is our intermediate ranking, which is the momentum ranking and the cycle analysis that we do for the intermediate term. So there are 3 rankings in there for positive, 3 for negative, and that's P1, P2, P3, or N1, N2, and N3. And there is a lot of explanation to that in our legend over here, and also for our option bias. So if you were a investor, you wanted to be investing in a particular stock, you'd want to know that you have a long-term primary trend and the cyclical analysis is positive. That means that the long-term and intermediate-term trends are up. So for an investor, you would take comfort in that. Now, I can go down to some other stocks in here that may be more negative. And you can see in here when I look at GILD, Gilead, that it's got a negative longer term trend, and it's got a P1 yellow, which is a stalling upside trend. And our option bias, which I'll explain to you in a second, is also negative. That's not one that you'd want to be invested in because, well, the primary trend is not good, and intermediate and short-term trends also are giving you a negative reading. So that's a look at how the person who may be a longer-term investor would use this information. Now, if you were a swing trader or you were a option trader, you'd want to use these two right here and our option bias, which are really powerful rankings. So let's take, for example, as we look at a stock like Avago. Now here's Avago, which is the old Broadcom, and you can see the long-term primary trend is green. That says the upward momentum is very strong on the longer term. Our intermediate is P2 green, which says it's in a powerful upward cyclical trend for the intermediate term. What you can see in here on the short term is that it has turned green short term, and note the arrow in there which says that for today this has been upgraded. Now I want you to see our option bias ranking right in here, which is a P3, which has been upgraded today also in there, which says that the trend for the short and intermediate term together has a powerful upward move that is likely to continue. And that says that if you were an option trader, your option bias would be to the long side, as P3 is the strongest upside option bias that we could put in there. So everything about Avago says positive, long-term, intermediate, and short-term. And our option bias says that, well, if you had a position in Avago, even though it's near all-time highs, you would want to be on the positive side in there. So that is the our different rankings that are put in here for our level 3 service. Now what we also do is we put in notes so that you'll get some sense around what the different conditions are and what it exactly means. As a matter of fact, when you look at Goldman Sachs over here, it's got all three as positive. However, this is a P1 orange, which says it's extremely overbought and likely soon to retrace. So there's a date there, and that date says that's when that ranking came. And usually it takes several days for a reversal to come in, but we want you to be aware of the extreme overbought position. So if you were in an option position, you would be looking for a reversal to the downside, at least temporarily. Now we have a trade setup in there right over here, which is for a short-term retracement, which says level 1 short. That is the smallest position that we would put on because it's a counter trend trade. So that is a ton of information in there that you can see. So I'm going to go back to the second page in here just so that you can see that in the Visa rankings over here, this is late in an upside move. That's that N1 yellow. Short term, it's turned negative. It is now what we would call neutral on its option bias. And so this is in a position where it is just now finishing its declining phase. So we take a small long position in there, and whenever you see 3 stars, that means that there is something new in there today. And this was recorded on 12/13, so there is a new long, and those 3 stars tell you that there is a new long. So one of the additions, the enhancement that we've added to here is our trade selections. And this is just absolutely great because our philosophy is that we don't give trades. What we do is share our analysis, as you can see, and then give what we call our trade selections so that you can choose out of them what might be the best strategy for you. So we share a model of what might be a great option strategy to use or the directional trade and the range that we think is the ideal entry range for a particular trade. So let's go back here to the trade selection page. And we're actually going back to the rankings and setups right here, and back to looking at the fact that we said that we have a level 1 long trade setup here for today. And then what we do is we go to our trade selection. So right up here on the top, I'm going to click on trade selection, and it's going to take you into our current and past trade selection page, which is right here. So what we have here is today's trade selection, and down over here, these blue tiles that you see are past trade selections, so you can refer to them after we put them in. So what do we have here for today? Well, remember we said that Visa was a level 1 setup. It is a trade type which is a swing trade. So in other words, we think this is going to be something like potentially 10 to even as long as 50 days for a swing trade. The symbol is Visa. The bias is long, and our favorable entry range is 77.20 to 79.10. So that is the information on the trade setup based on our analysis. Remember, this is not a trade recommendation. This is just simply sharing our analysis and saying the probabilities are high that that's a favorable range that you would get an upside movement from based on our combined analysis in all the different terms. So if you wanted to not buy the stock but do a stock replacement, then what we do is suggest in this particular model that the January 77.5 call with 38 days to go can be a stock replacement. Generally, those are over 60 deltas and will move nicely with the stock with a much less use of buying power. If you wanted to do a call spread, this is our model for that, which is long the 77.5/80 call debit spread. And if you wanted to do a put spread, which is out of the money, generally this is going to have a pop or probability of profitability between about 40 and 55% based on the option metrics. These are going to be between 50 and 70% based on option metrics because you're short 2 out of the money calls. You're short and out of the money and long and out of the money in a defined risk credit put spread. And in this case, it's the 77.5-75 put credit spread. So that's essentially is an example of that. Now yesterday I click on this and it's going to open up the Walmart, and there's the Walmart trade right in there, trade selection, and that one happened to work really fast. So in one day we took it out of the rankings and setups. So we'll go back into here, and you'll notice that there's a link back to rankings and setups. We go back into rankings and setups just by clicking that, and you can come back down over here. Now you'll note that we talked about Walmart and said that we had a trade selection there the day before. If I go to Walmart right over here, you'll see that it is grayed out. And the reason for that is because it had a strong upside move already in one day and moved out of our favorable entry zone. So we take it out of there, and you know that when it's grayed out. So there is just so much information in here and so easy to understand it based on the easy navigation and the fact that all on one page really here is all of our analysis. So essentially we looked at our level 3 rankings and trade setups, showed you how if you're an intermediate trader, you use the intermediate and short term and option bias, and if you're a longer term trader, you'll use the longer term and intermediate rankings in there to help you with that. And we give notes on the individual stocks when something, or futures when something comes up. And we put in trade setups, and then we put in our model of what the trade selection is for you to choose and to pick your own strategies that you use that fits with your own market engagement as a trader. Remember, we don't give trades. We essentially just share analysis and share ideas, and then it's up to you. So one more thing that I think is important to look at is on our home page, we have our marquee there, which shows you how we've done so far in over 300 setups. And here is that marquee right now as of the 13th of December. And what we're showing you is that, well, we've had a total of 302 setups. That's quite a bit, and certainly a good test for our rankings and trade setups. Of that 302, about 63% yielded a very favorable opportunity for profitability. About 27% yielded no reasonable opportunity for profitability. So we're running about 2.5 to 1 as far as positive opportunities versus no opportunities or negatives, which is just absolutely outstanding. And then we give our last 15 trade setups so that you can know where we are. And our last 15 at this time, 10 gave a very good opportunity for profitability and 5 did not. So there's about 2 to 1 when you look at that also, and pretty consistent. So you can see in our rankings and trade setups, we do a tremendous amount of work. We look at 400 stocks in total and ETFs and futures. And what we do is we cull it down to the 81 best tradable symbols. And in those 81 symbols, for people that get our charts, we do very extensive analysis in there with support and resistance zones, and also a lot of labeling, which tells you candlestick patterns that are important. And we give our projections on cycle analysis. So our level 4 even takes it a step further. But I wanted you to see all of this unbelievable information in level 3 and how you can use this to really, I believe, raise your odds of success as you engage in the markets. If you have any questions about this, make sure you send them to slim@askslim.com. That's level 3 rankings and trade setups and trade selections.